the reason that you're struggling in this neurodiverse marriage. There's multiple things going on, but the biggest one, I think it's safe to say the biggest one, is when you are trying to resolve relationship difficulties, the way that you're wired, and there's nothing wrong with the way that you're wired, you will tend to want to problem solve through the lens of logic. I'm not saying you don't have any emotions, and I'm not saying she doesn't have any logic, but she doesn't have the logic that you do. And when she is trying to process relationship difficulties and work on problem solving, she will look through the lens of emotions. She'll be using her emotional brain a good 95% of the time to problem solve. You'll be using your logical brain a good 95% of the time to problem solve. So the two of you are speaking two different languages. That's why it's so hard to get anything accomplished. She's speaking mostly emotionese, and I'm going to make up a term. You're speaking mostly logic-ese, and he will often get upset with her because she's being too emotional. And in most cases, in his eyes, she loses all credibility when she gets emotional, like crying and this and that while she's trying to talk to you. And in her eyes, when you come off with facts, figures, and overly logical in her mind, that's a big turnoff to her because she will download that as he's just trying to discount my feelings. He doesn't care about how I feel, etc. You know what I'm talking about. You've lived it. So one of the things that I want to talk about is I want you to become your own advocate. Because especially if she has not been paying attention to some of my videos or other videos or done her research online, and she is of the mindset, that's your problem, you're the issue, you need to go fix you, and then when you get it done, get back to me, and she's not willing to do much work on her end, it's going to be especially important for you to be your own advocate. And what does that mean? That means you, and if you don't do it, it won't get done. You're going to help her understand you, so she doesn't continue to make false assumptions. And I'm not blaming her. I understand some of the ways you behave look like he's selfish, uncaring, insensitive, narcissistic, I'm not important to him, etc. She has made a ton of false assumptions. The stuff that she would complain about was the direct result of one of the traits of the disorder, but she wanted to label it something else. So you're going to have to become an advocate for you because she's not going to know what's really going on unless you tell her. First of all, you're going to have to know your traits. And I'm going to specifically concentrate on 4. So let me back up and explain the 4 that I'm going to talk about so that you'll know what I mean. I want to talk about mind blindness and alexithymia, which is emotions blindness, and executive function deficits and anxiety. Those 4 things. In a nutshell, and you really don't need to know any more about mind blindness than this. It is, if I have mind blindness, I have difficulty understanding how, and we're going to put it in the context of the NT wife, I have a hard time understanding what she might be thinking and why. And when she tells me, remember, you're looking through the logical lens, she's looking through the emotional lens. When she tells me what she's thinking, it just seems so nonsensical and illogical. And so I don't understand why she thinks the way she does. And she will have certain opinions and perspectives and ideas that don't make sense to me. And she will want me to do certain things that just don't seem to need to be done, etc. So that is, and believe me, she has her own version of mind blindness too, but that's yours. And so it's hard, the mind blindness, I simply don't understand why she thinks the way she does and why she has certain opinions and why certain things matter to her so much and other things don't, etc. That's the first one. The second one is emotions blindness. If you have ASD level 1, you're going to be somewhat out of touch with your emotions and her emotions. And if she says, well, I feel this way about such and such, and she expects you to take how she feels and apply it to some course of action you're supposed to take, that's always a miss. And even when she explains what she's feeling, you may have the thought, well, I don't understand why you would feel that way. So that's the emotions blindness business. There's executive function deficits. We talked about that last time, I believe. One of which comes up a lot is working memory deficit. The fourth and final one is anxiety. So if I don't understand why she thinks the way she does and why she feels the way she does, and I have some executive function deficits like emotional dysregulation, problem shifting focus, working memory, and so on, it's going to create a lot of anxiety. So that's really all you need to know to plug these examples in here. You're going to let her know the trait that you have and use one of those four. And step number 2 in this little script here, technically not a script, but number 2, and you know she's downloading it as such and such, and I'm going to put in an example here, it'll make sense to you. Number 3, but what's really going on is, and you're going to fill in that blank. Number 4, actually 4 and 5 are scripts, but I still love you and care for you and want to meet your needs. Number 5, so it would be helpful if, and in there you're going to plug in a suggestion for her to do in the future that would help you with these 4 things. And so let's look at an example. I'll use mind blindness, emotions blindness, executive function deficit, and anxiety. We'll plug in all 4. Let's say, for example, she wants to do a particular thing and you disagree with her, and because, well, A, you may not want to do this thing that she wants you to do, and B, you don't even understand why she would even suggest that. I know I'm kind of being vague here, but that's the mind blindness thing. Maybe she wanted, see if I come up with a more specific example. It's important to her that you build some kind of little shed in the backyard or something, or maybe she wants a garden. I'm just making up a ridiculous example off the top of my head. And maybe you think that that's not cost effective. We don't even have room for it. But she never lets it go. And she's really upset that you're not going to follow through with this addition to the house. That's the one I'm going to run with that she wants. And she's really upset with you for not understanding how important it is to her. So we'll plug that in. Let her know the trait that you have. Okay, I have this thing called mind blindness, which means is I don't always understand your opinions and why things are important to you. Number 2, and I'm pretty sure you're downloading it as your opinion is not important to me, or that I don't care that you want this shed in the backyard. But what's really going on is, in my logical brain, I don't think we have room for it, and it's gonna, the cost is gonna outweigh the benefits. But I still love you and care for you and want to meet your needs, so it would be helpful if, and in this scenario you might want to say something along the lines of, we could perhaps find a compromise, maybe we find something smaller, or maybe we could wait until next year to do this, something like that. So in this way, you're not just leaving the door open for her to make another false assumption, and that is, he doesn't care about my opinions. The things that are important to me, he doesn't care. Let's use an example of alexithymia real quick, and I'll try to cut this short. She says, well, what you said last night hurt my feelings. Okay, well, that typically doesn't do anything for you because you probably may not even remember what it was. But if she reminds you, you may have a different take on exactly what you said, and you may assume that she's downloaded it wrongly. And also, I don't understand why you would be hurt like that. And plus, you seem to be hurt a lot about everything. So why is this any different than anything else that I do? It seems like. But that, we don't want to go down that road. So let her know the trait. Okay, I'm not making excuses, but I have emotions blindness, which means I'm not always sure what you're feeling or why. Number 2, and you might be downloading it as I don't care about your feelings, which I can promise you is not the case. Point number 3, what's really going on is it's hard for me to understand feelings and understand emotions and make the connection between the things that I say and do and how it downloads to you in the way of some kind of malicious intent, perhaps, that you think that I'm up to. But I still love you and care for you and want to meet your needs. So it would be helpful if you talk to me in terms of what you need rather than how you feel about my behavior. Executive function. Will you run with working memory? She's asked you to do something, you forgot. She's now upset with you for forgetting. Let her know the trait that you have. Okay, I'm not making excuses, but I do have a working memory executive function deficit, and it's possible that you're downloading that as I really did remember, but I just didn't want to follow through. But what's really going on is I technically forgot. It wasn't in my radar. It was initially. I wanted to follow through with it. When I told you I was going to follow through with it, I intended to follow through at the time, but that was 3 days ago, and I just honestly forgot. But I still love you and care for you and want to meet your needs. So it would be helpful if you would let me know, perhaps on a scale of 1 to 5, how important this is. So that if you say, okay, I want you to do this, dear husband, and it's a 4 or 5 on my scale of 1 to 5 of level of importance, then I'll make a point to write it down. I'll log it in my phone. I'll realize that this is a big deal, and I better not forget it. Last one, so I don't wear this horse out. Anxiety. You come home from work, you want to talk. She wants to talk to you before you even get 3 feet in the doorway. And then she's going to bombard you with 5 things that are stressful things in your mind, and you haven't had no time to de-escalate. And she has a problem with you over something. She has a problem with the kids over something. She had a problem with something that happened to her at work that she has a problem with. She's bombarding you with this, and you just can't take it. And you don't say or do anything, but you just kind of, I'm sorry that happened. And then you leave because your brain's about to crack and you haven't even decompressed from a shitty day at work, perhaps. And so now she thinks, well, there he goes, shutting down again. He doesn't care about it. I come home, I've got some things I wanted to talk to him about, what needed him to be some moral support and a sounding board. He don't care. No, okay. Let her know the trait. Okay, you know what? I've had a rough day, and when I come home, I'm usually high anxiety before I even get in the door. And I know that you may be downloading that as I just don't give a shit about your problems. But what's really going on, I'm in so much of my own emotional pain, it's hard for me to consider your emotional pain in those moments. But I still love you and care for you and want to meet your needs. So it would be helpful if, unless it's something emergent like the baby's drowning in the backyard pool or the garage is on fire, it would be helpful if you would let me go decompress for about 30 to 60 minutes, and then I'll come back and you can tell me what kind of a rough day you've had. So that was a long way around the bush, a 15-minute launch around the bush to get back to the point of you're going to have to advocate for you. You're going to have to let her know why you think you were behaving a particular way. You need to let her know how she might be downloading the behavior. And you need to let her know, I still love you. I still care for you. I still want to meet your needs. And then in the 5th and final thing, you're going to plug in some kind of a suggestion that where she can get her message across to you in a better way or a more with better timing, or any suggestion that you have that would lessen your blind spots, your executive function issues, or your anxiety. And in this way, hopefully she would play along. You're basically giving her some ideas of what she can do to establish communication. This is for her benefit too. You are advocating for you, but this is for her benefit too.